All right, so I am going to call this meeting to order at 5:30. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair or to the Select Board as a whole and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. Okay, so I know that we do have numerous adjustments to the agenda. And I think I have them all here, right, Karen?
I believe so, but if you want to go through and I'll validate.
Okay, so under boards, committees, and commissions, we're going to add under, well, as G, Equity and Inclusion Committee statement, I think is what it is, right?
Yeah, yes.
And then the next one after that would, under boards, committees, and commissions, H, is that the next letter in the alphabet? The Planning Commission update.
Correct.
Okay. And then under Select Board items, new business discussion and action, we want to move C and D under A. So B will be after D. And then as the last one under there will be F, resilient and efficient codes implementation.
What, say that again?
Resilient and efficient codes implementation is what I have here.
And it's a support.
Letter of support, is that what that
Well,
is?
not a letter, but just a verbal
support.
support.
And then under other business and closing comments, we have the school board was asking us for independent board review committee, budget. Independent Budget Review Committee
Yes.
nominations from Putney.
Right.
And their meeting was last week, yesterday, so it kind of fell in between our agendas. And as I've read all those off, I just want to make a reminder to the public that our agenda usually gets finalized by Saturday or Sunday of the week prior to our meeting. So if you have something that you want to put on our agenda, it's really best to get it to Karen the week before.
No later than Friday.
Yeah.
Because this is like, a couple of these was I'll take responsibility, but when I'm trying to, finalize an agenda, this is just way too much.
Yeah.
And I think if I don't get it on time, I'm just gonna put it on in 2 weeks.
And that's fair. I think that's fair.
Because right now I'm being reactive instead of proactive,
Yep.
and I don't like being in that.
Yep, and I'd really rather have it on the agenda as a warned agenda as opposed
Right.
to making adjustments to the agenda, which we are legally allowed to do, but I'd really rather have it out there to the public so they have a chance to look at the agenda. All right, are there any other adjustments to the agenda? Did I get them all?
You did.
Okay.
Good job.
So can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of March 8th, 2023?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 8th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of March 8th, 2023. Did anybody see anything in here that stood out?
I can't.
That's right, you're abstaining.
I didn't see anything. No,
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks for reminding me. I forgot you weren't here. Okay. No? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda. Are there public comments in the room? Are there public comments online on items not on the agenda? Are there any public comments on the select board? I just wanted to make a big shout out of appreciation to our road crew for and for the fire department for last week's storm. They did an excellent job, and that was really challenging circumstances. I don't know that any of us really expected it to be that damaging. So thank you so much for that. Any other comments? Okay, moving right along to the warrants to the treasurer. Can I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review. Karen?
So payroll warrant dated March 24th, 2023, in the amount of $25,529.63. There is some overtime by the highway department because of the storm, and the fire department as well. They opened up the emergency management facility, and they also went door to door doing welfare checks.
Oh, that's good.
And
Yeah.
phone calls and coning off the roads, and so they were out and about quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's the increase in the payroll.
Okay. I see, the amount that we have here is not the amount that Karen just said, and that
Thank
is,
you.
I think because of direct deposit, right?
That's right. Is there anything on the back of your?
It's right on the
Sorry,
back.
it should be on the,
Right there, Nate, so that number right here,
Ah.
that's the number right there, so. And usually, there's different reports, so usually there's two lines here, so one will show like direct deposit and one shows checks.
Okay.
But most of our folks are direct deposit, which is great. And I also believe, let me just double check here. No, I was thinking we were paying the rec department, but we're not. So yeah, that's why our payroll is higher than normal.
okay.
Let me see. Accounts payable dated March 11th through March 24, 2023, in the amount of $88,469.61. And there's really nothing unusual about this warrant. You know, your typical Simon's Operations, which is our wastewater treatment contractor, healthcare, $18,000, but nothing.
Remind me who Cargill is.
Cargill is our salt, so
Okay.
that should probably be like the last invoice for salt.
It's officially spring now, right? So we're done.
It is, as of Monday. Dufresne Group is for the sidewalk consultant. But other than that, it's, and Peak Motor and Pump is actually a pump for the well. So it's a backup pump,
Okay.
because we didn't have one, and
So that's a new item.
it's a new
Okay.
item, yeah.
A's Auto, is that just a repair for something?
Hayes Auto. I don't know, Eric, let me just double check for you. I'll look at the little numbers, but,
What is it?
It's
A's
the
Auto.
third one down.
A's Auto, okay.
so it looks like it was the towing of the Dodge Ram.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody have any questions on the warrant? Hearing none. Any questions? All right. Hi, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
so moving on to the town manager's report.
Short and sweet. So last evening was a school budget vote, and I received numbers from Jonathan, just out of curiosity. And so Putney has 1,932 voters, and in attendance at the school board meeting last night was 13 folks from Putney. But overall, there's 14,811 registered voters in the district. 103 voted on a $62 million budget last night. So that's 0.7%.
Yep.
So I know it's gonna happen. People are gonna be like, taxes went up, and I'm gonna be municipal side of your tax bill, educational side. You gotta look at the numbers, folks.
Yeah.
So hopefully, maybe, next year we can do a better job about getting people.
Showing up at the meeting.
Showing
Yeah, I mean,
up and-
I'll speak for myself. It was a bad day for me to be going. It's just one of those days where one of us had a late meeting, and I was on tap for carpooling and dinner. So, and I know that's the case for a lot of people. That's not necessarily an excuse, but I'm wondering if they can start moving them around the towns so that they don't always end up in Brattleboro.
Well, Ruby McAdoo is now our representative for Putney.
Yeah.
So I think we can work with her and have better communication and education about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I also mentioned to her too in an email that perhaps we can have her come to the board quarterly and just report what's going on.
That would be really great.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a disconnect,
There definitely is.
with Putney Central School and the town
Yeah.
since they went into the district.
Yeah.
So that's my personal opinion, which,
Yeah.
so.
I do have comments online, Mr. Furman.
Madam Chair, I would just offer the observation, by the way, I didn't vote either, but, we probably shouldn't be castigating voters because another way of looking at it is the school board presented an excellent budget and everyone was basically in agreement. Besides, we actually, educating the kids actually is not an option. It's not like town affairs where we can say, well, we're not going to do that because we actually don't have to. Thank you.
Thank you.
So John and I attended the last Welcoming and Engaging Communities cohort in Middlebury on Monday. So our group agreed to meet quarterly to check in with one another. So there's 8 municipalities. There's still work to be done. I actually would like to meet with SWIFT, with the Equity and Inclusion Committee, and Eileen regarding the survey and the data results, and see how to present them. And there's always the question, where do we go from here once we have this training? John and I have been doing this for 6 months now.
Yeah.
And everybody was asking the same question, and we know the work's important, and we want to continue it, and sometimes it costs money. So we're going to be, working together, and I'm thinking VLCT may do another cohort with another 8 municipalities, so we can build on it.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
Karen, can you just give us a little more information about what that's been for the last 6 months?
so John and I are going to write a summary, and then we're going to present it to the board,
Oh, cool.
because there's so much information,
Yeah.
Peg.
Yeah,
And,
that's fine. I'm just
yeah.
eager to hear.
Yeah, but we want to
Yeah.
present what, we experience
Mm-hmm.
and what we learned, and maybe to move forward in Putney with some ideas.
Great.
Overall, it seemed like it was a good experience, though.
It was positive.
That's good.
And I actually learned more in this cohort.
Yeah.
And, we did the training like 3 years ago, but with Dottie Morrison
Oh, yeah,
and
okay.
Mary. But I was more open this time around. It was different.
Mm-hmm.
It
That's
was a
great.
good experience,
That's
so.
great. Vanessa?
When you say John,
John Johnson?
okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things, so far, we're not that far in, but that's come up as really important in feedback for town plan is welcoming. A welcoming place, a welcoming community. So I just am hoping that you will share those, your experience and your findings with the Planning Commission,
Yes.
so that we can try to really kind of capture and put into action what it means to be a welcoming place, because it clearly is priority that we're hearing from everyone involved so far.
No, I'll definitely share it with the planning commission as well.
Thank
You're welcome.
Is there any other public comments in the room? Any online? All right, onward, Karen.
So, on the table, you have a flyer for the 2023 State Hazard Mitigation Plan update. So the state is looking for comments. The deadline is April 28th, 2023. The Planning Commission may be interested in this, and there's flyers on that table. So on the way out, you may want to just grab one. So I haven't dove into it. So.
All right, so this is the state's hazard mitigation plan.
It is the state,
All right.
but they are, there's certain questions for towns and cities. So I don't want to exclude Putney.
Well, we just updated ours, right?
That is correct.
So we should probably look at those questions in relation to our own plan. Wouldn't that make sense?
Not necessarily,
No.
no. So,
Okay.
Pip, I don't know how much experience you have with the state hazard plan, mitigation plan, none. All right. So I'm thinking it's for like stormwater,
Okay.
even though we have one,
Yeah.
in the state obviously mandates certain things, but if ours can supersede the state, but I haven't looked at this.
Okay. Well, and I'm looking at it briefly here. It looks like it would be something that we either add as an agenda item in the next meeting or so that we could have a public discussion about these questions, and then we designate one person to answer them, is how I'm reading this.
I'm thinking that you can just scan this barcode and go in there and answer questions.
It says to designate one person.
Oh,
So, so why don't we put this as a placeholder on to
all right,
like the next meeting, and we can discuss it.
okay. So, April. It'll have to be the next meeting. because-
April 28th. We've got a couple meetings, but
Yeah.
let's
April 5th.
do it.
All right. So perhaps we should look at it prior to our next meeting.
Okay. So
Okay.
everybody look at it.
And I would ask the planning commission to take a look at it, and if you have comments.
And the Conservation Commission too.
Yes.
Pip?
Who facilitated the update to the town?
Oh gosh, who did that?
Because I know Ann Carey might have been one of those people. Might be useful to ask one of them, because I suspect that many of these questions were on their mind when they were thinking about it.
Yeah, was it
So-
somebody from Wyndham Regional?
Yeah, it was Alyssa Sabeto,
Okay.
and the Conservation Commission had a big part in
Yeah.
it as well.
Okay.
He just may be the best resource in town because of their familiarity with the town version of
Okay.
it.
Yeah, okay.
Which is good. I don't know whether you've looked at it. I mean, it's an impressive document.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right, so I'll reach out to the
Okay.
Conservation Commission. But we'll still talk about it April 7th.
yeah.
All right. let's see, so I'm gonna be traveling to Main Street Now conference, next week. It is a conference for downtown, well, the Downtown Revitalization Task Force is also going. So this is an international, like, conference. So, I'm hoping to do some networking and gain some more resources that we can utilize here, for funding opportunities and ideas and things like that, so.
I'm really excited that you're going with some of the representatives from the committees. for
Yeah.
the Task force, that's great.
Yep, there's like 5 of them going, so they asked if I wanted to go, and I'm like, sure.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So, let's see. I met with the highway department yesterday morning. I actually went straight to the garage. And I thanked them for their hard work last week. And I know it wasn't easy. I just want to comment briefly about Chief Tom Goddard as the Emergency Management Director and his team at the fire department. I pretty much sat back and Tom and Brian worked with Green Mountain Power, Justin Mason, who's our district manager down here, and they cleared the roads, they plowed the roads the best they could. It was amazing. And Tom did a lot of communication back and forth with me with updates where I could post them on Facebook. And, you know, we do have Vermont Alert, and Tom and I talked about other platforms. So Vermont Alert is an important platform to put messages out. And our email chain that we're developing for town business. So if we ever have a storm like this, we're going to be able to utilize that email chain for a blast. So, because not everybody's on Facebook.
Right.
But I have to say that I am so thankful and grateful for Tom and his department and Brian and his crew, because let me tell you, I didn't worry about anything. They took care of it. So
Yeah.
I'm very impressed, and you know something, I will back them every single day. And as far as the roads being graded, so Brian did state that roads are drying up really quick right now,
Oh, that's good.
and the grader has a new blade on it. They were putting that on yesterday. And then the grader will be out and about. He's gonna start touching up some roads. We also took delivery of the brand new dump truck that came on Monday. So we're gonna be prepping that, and so things are looking good.
Okay,
So that's my report.
all right. Are there public comments in the room on the town manager's report? Anybody online? I saw Swift Everty gave a heart reaction to the highway departments and the highway department and fire department work on the last storm we had, so thank you for that again. All right, if there's no other comments, we can move on to boards, committees, and commissions. First thing is to appoint a select board vice chair, so I'll just cut to the chase and ask for nominations for select board vice chair.
Make a motion, we approve Peg Alden.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, welcome to the vice chair position.
Thank you.
All right. Next piece on our agenda is the ARPA committee update. Are you doing that, or
I thought Jeanette was, is
Is
Jeanette
Jeanette-
here?
is Jeanette online?
We can table it.
No.
I think
we-
it was just a very simple statement that was sent in an email, and basically it was just the minutes from our last meeting.
Which I
I don't believe that
have
made it to
here.
our packet.
And I don't have it printed out, so, again, this week has been really,
That's odd. Ruby said she was sending it to you guys.
let me see.
Well,
I'd rather have
just
Jeanette
next
here
time
as the
it's
chair.
just
Except for
very-
next time, it doesn't matter that by next time, I think we should get this out while the
But
committee's,
all right, so
yes, if we have it, I think we should.
Hold
you
on
said
a
it was in the
minute.
minutes?
I'm sorry, I don't have any devices with me. Do you have
Yeah.
a device that can pull it up? I left all my electronics.
Are they posted? The minutes? I'm gonna find out. We will find out in a second. Was that the 3/2/2023 meeting?
Probably.
Did that one?
It was right
Yeah, I guess
before
that makes sense.
town meeting.
That would have been right before town meeting. All right, so
Was it March 2nd?
March 2nd.
Yeah.
Is it the committee discussed establishing a statement for the select board?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. The following statements were considered. The committee feels that the best recommendation would be to hire an outside consultant who would manage the ARPA funding process on behalf of the town of Putney. The committee recommends that the ARPA funds be held in an interest-bearing account as soon as possible, and soliciting community feedback should continue to be a priority for public input in establishing funding priorities. And that's all I've got here.
That was,
Does that sound
those
right?
were the three.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess, no, this is third. Interest bearing. Oh, yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay, so those three recommendations from the ARPA committee to the select board.
All right. I don't know that we need to discuss those right now, unless you want to. Do you want to discuss any of those? Or mull them over?
I think we should take them under advisement.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is there public comment online about the ARPA update and recommendations from the ARPA committee?
There is, Madam Chair.
Mr. Fairman?
Thank you. I stepped away for a moment. Having been a consultant and having engaged and managed consultants, I would ask the committee, you're recommending that we engage a consultant. What would the consultant's terms of reference be? In other words, what specifically is the consultant being asked to do? Not in general terms, but in specific terms that typically would state these are the work products that we expect. Thank you.
Do you have an answer to that question?
My only answer is yes, of course, we would have to figure that out before a consultant could be engaged.
But the committee
The committee
didn't come up with
does
any
not have
criteria.
specific recommendations
Okay.
there.
Heather?
Good afternoon. I'm just curious, and maybe I'm not understanding it appropriately. The verbiage is that we hire somebody to help make decisions or approve how the ARPA funds are spent for the town. Why are we considering hiring somebody as opposed to putting it to a town vote through Australian ballot or special town meetings?
It was a recommendation by the ARPA committee, so we're not necessarily doing anything with it. But I would assume that we would have a consultant come up with what we were tasking the ARPA committee to come up with, and if comes a time where there would be something that we would feel the need to vote on, I'm assuming we would put that out to the voters if we felt that was necessary. Karen?
Can I just make a clarification? The select board has the authority to spend the ARPA funds.
Yeah. So we wouldn't necessarily put it out to town vote, but I think the intention all along has been to solicit public input as much as possible. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, there was a glitch in the audio. Did you say my name?
I just did right now.
Okay, for a moment, the audio dropped out where I am, so I wasn't sure. If we decided to have it voted by a special town meeting, I'm not going to go into the details now, but there's a seldom used but very productive Robert's Rule, which is the motion to create and fill a blank, which is basically as many people as wish propose what could fill the blank, and then a vote, an elimination vote is held where there is finally a winner, and it's all done from the floor. So I'm just letting folks know that this could be a possibility if we decide to go that route. Thank you.
Okay, good to know, thank you. Is there any public comment in the room? Any other comments online? Any other discussion amongst the select board on this? Okay, moving on to the Deerfield Valley Communication Union District reappointment.
So in your packet is the resolution to appoint a representative to the governing board of the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District. This happens annually. So Core Trowbridge is willing to stand up for another year as representative. We do not have an alternate. We can have 2 alternates if we want, but Michael Maricki has not expressed interest in doing it.
Okay,
So this is not due until like April 25th.
okay,
So we can either approve Core
yeah,
and then look for an alternative, which is what I recommend,
okay.
instead of holding on to this and it gets dropped through the black hole.
All right,
Okay?
okay. So, can I hear a motion to reappoint Core Trowbridge to the DV Fiber Governing Board of the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District?
I'll make a motion.
You can say so moved if you want. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to reappoint Core Trowbridge to the Governing Board of the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District. Is there discussion among the board?
Thank you, Cord.
Public comment? In a second.
Can you explain what it is, please?
So this is the, I'm gonna flub this up. So there's a communications union district, the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District, of which we are a part. And their appointed task, at least at the moment, is to string fiber to all of the available households in their area. So they have a plan, they're working on it. I think they are in fact stringing fiber right now as we speak. After that, they will be administering the program as well, I believe, right?
Right.
So it's a local alternative basically to your Xfinities and your... Is there other public comments in the room? Any public comment online? Further discussion among the board? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Thank you, Core. All right, the next piece is the reappointment of committees and board members. This is a item that we do every year. We usually do it as a slate. In your packet, there's a Excel spreadsheet of all of the positions that we will be reappointing this year. Karen, we have the deputy tree warden appointment, never mind, that's different.
Right.
Okay, I was
So-
gonna say do we have to do that again? Do we have to?
No,
reappoint?
so the tree warden's all set,
Okay,
but what I'm gonna question right now, because what I don't see on this list is the ARPA committee.
Yes, that's true. Do we want to discuss that now?
do you want to discuss it now?
I
This is
think we
probably
need
the
to
point, yeah.
before we vote on a slate.
Okay, So the reason the ARPA committee isn't on here is because so I didn't know whether we move this independently or what, but basically I am moving that the ARPA committee be laid down for a number of reasons, including, but not limited to, the fact that the committee has had a very difficult time functioning. They've not been able to make steady progress on moving us towards decisions about the ARPA funds for a number of different reasons. One, because the ARPA committee was given a very unclear charge by the Selectboard that confounded their process. It became really clear that as time went on, that the potential conflicts of interest on the committee were such that there were so many people who had potential conflicts of interest that if they were to step aside, we wouldn't have had a quorum to make decisions on the committee anymore. So the committee basically was non-functional for that reason. And a number of committee members had quit or were ready to quit as of our last meeting. So basically the committee for all of those reasons needs to be laid down, and we as a select board need to revisit a discussion about what we want to do about ARPA.
Okay. So you've made a motion to
I'm
lay
making
down.
a motion to lay the committee down.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to lay the current ARPA committee down. Other discussion among the board? Is there public comment online? Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, the member has referred to the committee being laid down. I'm quite familiar with parliamentary and administrative procedure, and this is the first time I've ever heard this term. Could the member please define it?
We're not reassigned. We're in the part of the meeting where we're reappointing. So I guess the movement is to not reappoint the ARPA committee.
So are you disbanding the committee?
Yes.
I think yes, we are disbanding the committee in favor and revisiting a possible more clear resolution at a later date if that's the direction we're going.
Thank you for the clarification.
Is there other public comment in the room? Is there? Oh, Swift. Hi, Swift.
Sorry, I'm not in the room, but thank you. Yeah, I'm just curious on if you do choose to disband the committee, what is the commitment from the select board for next steps? Because it's a big lift and you asked for help in getting this committee going. So like, what are we doing instead? And I think we're hearing Peg was on that committee, but I'd love to hear from other committee members, more than just one person saying like, yeah, this is the right idea. I think we need to do that. Or I want to hear from people that are on the committee. I'm not hearing their voice besides Peg.
All right. Well, it is a select board decision, not a.
I'm not saying it's Victoria. I'm just saying this piece of. Yeah, I wish they were here.
We do have one other member here. Vanessa, do you want to speak to it?
Sure. So it's, we were really in an awkward position because I think, on the one hand, the nonprofits and folks who are really, involved in the grassroots in town are the people who need to be on that committee. But since they're also the ones representing a need for funding, we got really caught up in at what point does it constitute a conflict of interest. So, on the one hand, you really want nonprofits, grassroots folks on the committee. On the other, if they are on the committee, does that exclude them from their organizations or the people they represent in this town receiving any of that funding? So that, I think, was the main conflict. I think, though, that the select board wouldn't necessarily have to do away with an ARPA committee. Obviously, many, many towns have managed to work out these problems. And I think at the very least, one of the things that we can do, which, you know, at least I had certainly started to do, and I think there was plenty of way to do it without conflict of interest, is at least to take the burden off of the select board to define what the job of a consultant would be. Whether there should eventually be a townwide vote, but at the very least to define what that consultant's job, I think the parameters of the job would be, is certainly one thing that you could, as you know, as the select board, give a much more clear and direct mandate to a new slate of ARPA volunteers.
Yeah.
So does that help at all, Swift?
And
Thank you so much.
I wish the chair were here, because, you know, it would be good to have her voice here too. And yeah, I mean, I can just say that it was a tough process. We worked really hard. We did our best, and it was really clear that we're on a time crunch with the ARPA, and we were not making progress. We were really stymied in being able to make progress. So that we need to try something different, which we're not discussing right now. We're just discussing whether we're going to reappoint this particular committee. But I hope that people have confidence that we will be back to the conversation about what we're going to do very soon, because it's a timely issue.
One way or the other, we have to discuss the ARPA funds and how we're going to use them. And I just also wanted to say that, you know, thank you for everybody's service. It wasn't our intention to write a unclear resolution. We thought actually it was pretty solid at the time, but we didn't really necessarily know what we wanted either. So thank you for going through that process, and
we are not the only town struggling. Let's just put it that way. Lots of towns are struggling with this. Yeah.
Sue. Sorry, I'm calling Christine for some reason. Sue.
One thing that could be helpful to clarify as the committee is being disbanded is what do they have to do to wrap it up? I think it would be good to know, do they meet again? Do they have any statement?
That was the statement that just got read.
I see, so that came from them.
Yes, that came from them in their last meeting, what they understood to be their last meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
Bryce.
I'm just not going to name anybody today. Bryce, sorry.
So I'm assuming since you're disbanding it, that means that then the select board would take over what we were doing with the funds, right? There won't be a committee that necessarily recommends it unless we hire this consultant.
We can stand up another committee if we feel like that's where we want to go. We could discuss hiring a consultant if that's where we want to go. We could, in fact, discuss something ourselves and find things to fund. There's lots of different possibilities. I don't think we really have a clear idea on what we plan on doing, because this is the first step to move forward, is to disband that committee and figure out what our next step is. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, will our town of Putney Select Board state categorically that they neither state nor imply any criticism of the members of this committee?
I think I tried to say that just now, but yes, there was no ill will involved here. We just, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. And, all of the people that were on that committee are good committee members in their own right, and it just the makeup or the resolution just it didn't make for good stew, I guess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also would offer for clarification, I'm looking at the town of Putney conflict of interest policy, which applies only to public officers. The members of the committee are not public officers. But as perhaps a useful statement that is in here, a conflict of interest does not arise in the case of an official act or action in which the public officer has a personal or financial interest in the outcome, such as the establishment of a tax rate that is no greater than that of any other persons generally affected by the decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment online? Is there any other comment in the room? Public comment in the room? Any other discussion among the board? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, so we have not yet gone and reappointed the slate. So can I have a motion to reappoint the slate of officers as noted in this spreadsheet?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to reappoint the slate of officers as noted on the spreadsheet that was updated March 22nd, 2023, which happens to be today. Is there discussion on the board? Is there public comment in the room? Is there comments online? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, thank you everybody who's on this list for your continued service. Moving on to the deputy tree warden appointment.
So we appointed a tree warden, John Grant, a couple weeks back. I reached out to William Bill Harlow to see if he would be interested in the deputy tree warden appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So he is,
Okay.
and he actually knows Mr. Grant, so this is good. And he is interested, he knows the town very well, and he can work with Mr. Grant and show him around town, and, you know. The one comment that Mr. Harlow made, so as we move forward, we need to be looking at a budget, because if there are trees that need to be removed, we need to figure out how that's gonna happen.
Okay.
I know, like, the town of Brattleboro used to do it themselves, but because of the liability, they contract out now for tree service. So I don't know what this looks like, having a tree warden. I do know, like, you know, planting trees, like shade trees, but also with the emerald ash borer and some of these other trees that, you know, even with the storm, you know, there's still potential for, you know, tree limbs to come down at any time, any storm. So I'm sure I'll be coming to the board, and, you know, we'll see what happens, but there's a potential for next year's budget. In 2025, wow, that will be creating some sort of budget if need be, but I can't really determine that yet until we get both of these gentlemen out there to assess what's going on.
Okay. So normally they either come to our meeting or they get a letter of interest. Did you get something in writing?
No, I did not.
And is he here?
He is not here.
All right, how's the board feel about that?
I would recommend him.
Okay.
He's always been appointed as the tree warden, but because the state has changed the roles, and it's the responsibility of the tree warden, they have a bigger role.
Yeah.
So I did try to reach out to him last fall.
Okay.
But I do highly recommend Mr. Harlow.
What do you mean he's always been the tree warden and now he's going to be the deputy tree warden?
He was the tree warden a while back.
He was our tree warden.
Yes. So he was just automatically reappointed every year.
Right.
So, and with the state changes, and the town has to have a tree warden every year, and they can have a deputy tree warden. So John Grant came forward.
Right. Was he the tree? I'm stuck on process here because of because how much work we put into, you know, the process of kind of people being appointed to committees and things. So was he the tree warden last year?
No.
No.
Years prior.
Years.
Yeah, we had a
years
tree,
prior.
we had a tree
Right.
warden and temporarily who then moved out of Putney
Right.
last year. Before that, I don't believe we had one because
Okay.
Bill didn't want to do it, I think. He didn't want to continue as,
Okay,
At the
I'm
time,
not
so-
questioning his
Yeah.
appropriateness to be the tree warden, but I'm not gonna be able to vote to appoint him as tree warden without either something in writing or
Okay.
him coming
That's
and
why-
introducing himself to
that's why I
us.
asked how the
I
board
just-
feels about this.
That's the way I feel about
Okay,
it.
so is that how?
I would feel more comfortable with a letter or.
Okay, all right. So we'll hold that thought, we'll table it until.
Yeah, and tell him it has nothing to do with our sense of appropriateness for him for the position.
It's just a matter of process.
It's really just a process thing.
Well, I'll do my best, but
Okay.
I know, I mean, I would, if it means anything, I would make a recommendation to appoint him.
Okay, well, maybe we should vote,
You know,
because
um,
that,
I don't have an opinion either way. I do know that we are trying to get into some kind of consistent process here, and that's why I asked what the feeling of the board was. On the other hand, he has served the position before.
I mean, for how many, since I was a kid, he was tree warden, you know?
well, here's the thing. No, I'm not even gonna say it. I'm just saying. You know,
I'd vote.
if we want people and they're willing to step up, you know, we go back and forth, and Swift can back me on this, you know, we used to get a letter of interest. You know, people can come to a meeting now, and, you know, some people are not comfortable doing that, and some people may have a barrier writing a letter.
And that's
So-
fair, and you talked to him. And
I
he's-
talked to
And so
him, and
he's aware that we're about to vote him into the
Yes.
position,
And
okay?
he's willing to be the deputy tree
All right.
warden.
So I'm hearing you may be making a motion? All right, so Eric's made a motion to appoint Bill Harlow as the deputy tree warden.
Second.
Second. All right, is there further discussion among the board? Is there any comments online? Are there any comments in the room? Bryce?
I would just say that I know him as well from years and years and years, and I would recommend him as well.
Okay. All right, so, hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
me.
Okay, fair enough.
Can I make one comment too? If we're gonna keep going through this, we need a procedure in writing.
I stared at a blank piece of paper the other day, hoping it would write itself. But yeah, I know that's on the list. All right, moving on to a resignation of the Energy Committee member. Got a letter from Robin Ekstrom, which I guess was addressed to me. It says, "Dear Eileen, it is with regret that I wish to inform you that I wish to resign from the Putney Energy Committee. I know I have mentioned this, but have been remiss in sending a formal letter, which I also regret. With the increasing activity on the Planning Commission, on which I also serve, I am unable to devote the time to this important committee which it deserves. Cordially yours, Robin Ekstrom." So thank you, Robin, for your service and for your continued efforts to try to get that committee back up and running again. And this is just another shout out to the community. This is actually a very important committee. I think people may think it seems a little boring, but it's not boring. It can potentially have, you know, a lot of numbers and a lot of details, but you know, there's also potentially really exciting projects that you can get the town involved in, including car chargers and solar panels and alternatively fueled vehicles for the town, and all these things that we as a town keep talking about how we want them, but we don't have the capacity to research and actually get them done. So just another shout out that we really need people to serve on that committee. Vanessa?
Can you tell us, and for everybody who's online and everything today, how many people are still on the committee? How many are needed? Is there particular experience as we're asking around? for folks? What would suit the committee?
So they weren't on our list there, but there's technically one person,
Oh,
Val Chu.
There are two other.
There's
So Alan Blood.
Alan Blood
And Morgan
Morgan
Casella.
Casella. I don't know if, I mean, I haven't heard from them, so I don't know if they're
Right.
still interested, but technically they haven't sent in resignation letters. And I know that Val is still interested in serving in that capacity, so that
There's one more.
is at least
There
one, I
was
think that's
five.
it.
But
I
why
was the
weren't they
fifth.
Oh, you were the fifth.
on here?
Oversight.
Okay.
Also, they're not meeting, so
They're not
it's
meeting.
really sort of
So
a-
they're not,
No, they're pretty much.
Yeah, so-
Inactive, they're inactive.
it's not a,
So it's not an active
Active
committee,
committee.
yeah. So as far as qualifications are concerned, I think the most important qualification is dedication to the idea,
Commitment.
to the,
Yeah.
it would be helpful if you had experience with alternative sources of energy, or grant writing would be awesome. Because there's a lot of money out there right now, especially for alternatively fueled vehicles and solar panels and all that, all heat pumps and all of that stuff. But most important is dedication and commitment to the process. I have two hands up. Sue?
Yeah. First of all, I also want to,
This is-
thought I could turn this off, sorry. I just want to also thank Robin for his service and the weight he's carried for a while on this, and thank you, Robin. I'd also like to say that the town plan is looking at energy. In fact, next week we'll be having a conversation about housing, transportation, energy, which are related. I think having that clarification of what is in the town plan going forward can be very helpful for rebuilding the energy committee, because that will be its charge. It's had a very wide charge. And this discussion that we're having for the town plan could change that.
Yep.
I am, as a member of the Planning Commission, very interested in helping to make sure that the follow through on whatever we come up with, it gets supported in appropriate ways, get the right people on board. So when we think of credentials, what will that look like? So I just thank you, Robin, and I think the town plan will provide a good jumping off point to renew the energy committee, and I personally will do whatever I can to help make that happen.
Okay, great.
and I think, mentioning it at the in the energy group next week, that, that's where we've got people coming out because they're interested in that topic. Let's see if we can rope some of them into the energy committee.
Yeah. And I'll just say, I'm pretty sure that the Energy Committee has been up and down in the town of Putney for a long
Right.
time. I think the original resolution was written in the 70s. So it's a pretty long-standing committee. It hasn't been active the entire time, but it's definitely something that the town has definitely utilized in the past. The resolution may need a little tweaking if that's the last resolution. A little tweaking. If the 70s was the last version we have.
Does every committee, commission, board have a resolution? There is a resolution.
I think that's a practice that we've started.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah.
Through the cohort.
Yeah.
So resolutions can put up barriers,
Mhm.
and it's not as flexible.
Apparently.
So I really think we need a discussion about resolutions and how we move forward
Okay.
with the language. Because the ARPA committee was a perfect
Poster
example.
child.
And we use that template from VLCT.
Yeah.
So we need to rethink how we state a task.
Okay. I mean, I think
For a
they're useful
committee.
in that, you're not, like, I think we've had this discussion before, you're not shifting through years' worth of select board minutes to
Right.
find the vote that stood up a committee or reduced the membership from 5 to 3 or whatever it is.
Right.
So I think they're useful in that sense, but yeah, I can, we obviously have experienced the resolution failure.
It's a barrier.
Yeah. Yep.
It's clear.
Yep. All right, is there further public comment online? More comments in the room?
I had my hand up, but I was going to say the same thing as Sue, which was one, to thank Robin, and two, to emphasize this kind of potentially really nice cohesion between the town plan process and the energy committee, and that hopefully not just once the town plan is in place will the energy committee have kind of maybe not a resolution, but a clear charge, tasks, and ways to go, but that maybe knowing that the town plan process is underway would encourage people to join the energy committee, knowing that that there is palpable, real process and action in play, and that it's not just kind of a theoretical, wouldn't it be nice if?
Yeah.
So, kind of going both ways to get folks in there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And thank you, Ben, for the reminder to bring it up at the next meeting for folks who are interested to join.
Right. Is there further discussion on the board on the energy committee? Any other comments online? Any further comments in the room? All right, hearing none, let's move on to the Equity and Inclusion Committee statement. That's you, Swift.
Hi, thank you. And Karen, I really appreciate your reminder to be more prompt with getting on the agenda. So March, I wanted to recognize 3 different events. March is Women's History Month. There's also Trans Visibility Day was, oh wow, I don't know the date. I think it was the 31st. I think it is on the 31st. It was Neurodiversity Week. I think it was last week. So Shoshana Bass, one of our members, wrote a statement for Women's History Month, and I wanted to read that and a few other recognitions. So Women's History Month had its original origins as a national celebration in 1981 when Congress passed Public L 97-28, which authorized and requested the president to proclaim a week beginning in March 7, 1982 as Women's History Week. Throughout the next 5 years, Congress continued to pass joint resolutions designating a week in March as Women's History Week. In 87, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress passed Bill 109, which designated the month of March. 1987 is Women's History Month. Between 88 and 94, Congress passed additional resolutions requesting and authorizing the president to proclaim March of each year as Women's History Month. Since 95, presidents have issued a series of annual proclamations designating the month of March as Women's History Month, and these proclamations celebrate the contributions women have made to the United States and recognize the specific achievements women have made over the course of American history in a variety of fields. The National Women's History Alliance, which spearheaded this movement for March being declared National Women's History Month, has announced the Women's History theme for 2023, which is celebrating women who tell their stories. Throughout 2023, this organization will encourage recognition of women, past and present, who have been active in all forms of media and storytelling, including print, radio, TV, stage, screens, blogs, podcasts, and more. The timely theme honors women in every community who have devoted their lives and talents to producing art, pursuing truth, and reflecting the human condition decade after decade. Like most of our months of recognition, the fundamental purpose of committing to honoring this particular history is to continue the work of preparing our historic narratives to include the voices that were excluded. There are many different approaches to honoring the significance of this history. Here are some suggestions. You could research, learn as much as we can about our own matriarchal family lines, research the history of the suffragette movement and or significant female figures in shaping our history, ask how gender inequity intersects with injustice related to ethnicity, religion, age, or other makers of identity. 2, you could raise awareness on how inequities are still present in our daily lives, and through pay inequity and the burden of household and child care responsibilities, invisible labor, workplace stigmas and double standards, underrepresentation in leadership, domestic violence, and sexual harassment, to name a few. Speak out, and number 3, speak out for gender equality or help to give visibility to an advocacy group supporting women. Participate in political advocacy that gives women and girls the opportunity to succeed. And 4, support and or make donations to women's nonprofits, women-run businesses, women artists, and women support groups. Here in our community, we are grateful for the work of the Women's Freedom Center as a local organization. And their website is womensfreedomcenter.net if you'd like to make a donation directly to them. I also want to acknowledge Trans Visibility Day, and I contacted Out in the Open, which is a local LGBTQ plus organization, and they did this year this really cool thing of a 10-day retreat where they gathered 10 people could apply and actually be paid $800 stipend to participate in an audio storytelling retreat of gathering their stories, spending time together, being in this like space together to heal and gather stories and actually record some of them and listen to other stories. And it seems like, I'm not seeing it mentioned it once and I'm hoping that it will go this way, that some of those will be published, these like 3 to 5 minute story recordings from that retreat. I'm assuming on their website. And if I get more information, I'll come and share it. And their website is outintheopen.org. So Trans Visibility Day is another moment of recognition of recognizing our friends, our neighbors, our community members, our organizations where trans people are here and bringing light to that community. I don't have a more formal statement about that. And the other one is Neurodivergence Week. I was curious if Landmark did something, it seems like they didn't, but they have participated in events in the past. And again, it is a week of events, and there's an organization that founded it in 2018 to really bring attention to the gifts and the light and the love of all our different brains and how they all work, or don't work all the time, and how we can create communities and spaces for everyone to feel welcome. Their statement on their website is, Neurodiversity Celebration Week is a worldwide initiative that challenges stereotypes and misconceptions about neurological differences. It aims to transform how neurodivergent individuals are perceived and supported by providing schools, universities, and organizations with the opportunity to recognize the many talents and advantages of being neurodivergent while creating more inclusive and equitable cultures that create differences and empower every individual. So that's March. Thanks for listening. We are working on the Equity Committee on like a formal list of what we're going to be recognizing every calendar year, and that could always be updated. We're working on formalizing that with really an eye to local events and local things that are going on. So, thanks.
All right, thank you. Is there public comment on SWIFT's update online in the room? Is there any discussion among the select board?
The only thing, Swift, as you're speaking, I realized that it might be really nice for the equity committee, and I could help you do this, is kind of organize some kind of panel of students from Landmark to speak to the community about their experience here in Putney. And, you know, I think that might be really interesting, you know.
Yeah, I would love that. I want to speak to that piece of how do we weave in the community of Landmark into our community, especially with the, misconceptions and perceptions of the students, and this piece of how do we weave together so we can not only get to know each other, but also create more spaces of joy and all of it. Like one of our committee members is a student, and there's a potential for another member to be joining, and Mark is there. So we do have this piece of representation on our committee. But I'm curious about this news about Christina Shin, who is our newest member, and how we can weave that in even deeper than it already is, and what that looks like.
Cool. It would be great to reach out to them as well for other committees that we have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Greenwood.
Hold on.
We have two.
One second. Go ahead.
Or just Anne Greenwood.
And Greenwood, yeah. Did you hear that, Swift?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Deborah? You're muted. You're muted.
Hi.
There.
I just wanted to let you know, as a matter of fact, I've written an article about Alice Holloway, who came to Putney in the 1920s during World War II, 1918. And she was here working for women's equality. And she wanted women to have equal value to men. And I wrote a little story about her that has little anecdotes from people who know her. It's on Friends of Putney website under stories. And also I'm working on an article about John Humphrey Noyes, who also wanted women to have equal value to men. And that will be posted on the Friends of Putney website. And hopefully these will be published in the Commons as well. Just wanted you to know we have a long history, 200 years of trying to get women's equality in the town of Putney. Thanks, bye.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments online?
Can I just say one more thing?
Swift. Go ahead, Swift.
Yes, Trans Visibility Day is on March 31st. And something that I really want to recognize that I'm seeing more and more and more of is young trans children, like under the age of 6. And I'm really loving how sweet our communities are in supporting them and creating a space where a child can start exploring their gender expression. And I'm just bowled over with love of what we're able to create in a space that's welcoming in our schools and in our early childhood settings that I'm witnessing as a parent of young children. So just more spreading of the love. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Deborah, your hand is still up. Is that, did you have something else to say? Doesn't look like, okay. Bryce, did you have your hand up?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I was just
pointing up, yeah. It is hard for me. It's hard for me to distinguish the people who are waving and the people who have the yellow hand up. All right. Is there other discussion among the board? All right. Moving on to the Planning Commission update. That's all of you.
Great. I have a little handout for everybody. Hopefully including here. You have it, right? Do you have it in your packet? Oh, you're good. You are so good,
Yes.
Karen.
I try to be. I do the best I can, Sue.
Every single day.
Okay, I'm just going to stand up. This is a very brief report. The Planning Commission undertaking the town plan and community engagement to inform the town plan. Also agreed that once a month we would come to the select board and let you know how we're doing. So that's what this is. And what you have as a example of what we're doing, you have a list of what our schedule is in terms of community engagement. And it's the community meetings that we have and the dates for them. It talks about when we're going to have a hearing, working towards a hearing that would be in August, so that we could then, by the 15th of September, provide to you all a recommended 2023 town plan that would then have to go to 2 public hearings because our population is bigger than 2,500 people, barely. But we would have to do that so that the plan can be approved by the end of the year. So we're on schedule. That's one takeaway. Another thing I wanted to say is that our first community meeting, we had a lot of very good feedback from. We learned a lot. It was a first effort. I would say that we did not have the right tools for virtual participation. I will thank Nate right here, who tried very hard to help engage the folks online. He was working with us on that. But it was not the right tool using YouTube. So we've changed it up, but we had great response from that. We have also broadened the ways that we can make information available and receive information. So at the bottom of this one page, you'll see where information can be found. So drafts for our next meeting, which is next Wednesday on housing, energy, and transportation, have been posted since last week. And now that we all have power again, we can turn on our computers and look at them. We can also provide comments anytime at the PlaySense website for the 2023 town plan. We have set up a new email address, putneyplanning@gmail.com, where we can receive materials and comments from folks. People also can send things by mail. But I would say that it is a great process. And the last thing is that we plan to expand our outreach. We realize that the community meetings will only reach a small portion of the community. There's a lot of people who could just never get there or wouldn't. So we've created a plan, identified, and actually Swift would like to talk with you further about that. I know that Andrew Morrison has reached out to you to identify who in the community we might not be reaching and how do we get their input. But we're looking at multiple mechanisms. That said, we're 5 people, and we're doing it all on our own except the consultant helping to draft materials for us. So there's limits to how much we can do. But so far, so good. Okay, anything for Mike?
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work, and I was at the first meeting, and I agree we did get a lot of good material, and I also agree that the YouTube online process was not as smooth, so kudos to you for trying to work with.
It took 3 of us.
I know.
We've got a Zoom account set up.
Good. Yeah, well, you know, you live and you learn, and that's, you improve processes, that's great. Karen?
So I also want to acknowledge town hall staff has actually been supporting you as well.
Should have said that.
Back and forth. I
Thank
just
you,
want to make
Karen.
sure everybody gets recognized. So,
There's a lot of people to recognize, and I
Yes.
thank you for bringing that up. So it really is a town effort, I have to say.
Yes.
As it should be. Swift?
I just want to say that I've spoken with Andrew, and he is coming to our meeting tomorrow to speak more to the equity committee about some ideas and brainstorming for folks that need different or alternative ways to be included. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I imagine that could be spread out among all the communication issues that we've been having. We could probably apply those lessons to other avenues as well.
Sure.
Vanessa?
Just technically, you know, these dates for meetings, it is on top of the regular planning commission meetings and several others that we've had to do in addition, just because there's so much work to be done. So, you know, ideally, in terms of how to bring in information, you know, comments, anything like that, come to meetings, write to us online or snail mail. But technically, we also have all of our regular meetings plus other special, always noticed meetings. So there's many, many, many opportunities.
Okay, good to know. Is there public comment online? Have I opened it up to the select board? I forget. Does anybody on the select board have any comments? All right. Public comment online, I don't see any other further comments in the room. Laura.
Good evening, it's Laura. I'm just wondering, was the agenda revised?
It was.
Yes, I'm on the wrong agenda as always, but never mind. I'm following along.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we actually added a bunch of stuff to the agenda and moved stuff around. So
Very good.
yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah. You're not going crazy. So
I'll just make one final request. Karen, may the planning commission be on the agenda for the select board second meeting in April to do our monthly report? Just make this a regular thing.
So it will be April 19th.
April 19th. Yes.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank you, planning commission. That was
No.
Meeting then.
Oh, the 19th, we have a meeting that day. I'm just thinking.
that might
Yeah, actually, I
might be a bad time.
No, I think we might,
Can you do this and that?
we were trying to schedule it before you had your schedule for the year. That was the problem.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Well, yeah. So maybe you want to.
We'll have to think about what we can do about that.
Okay.
So don't make us for that meeting. Oh, there's a recommendation that we note that we meet the first Tuesday of every month as a regular meeting at 7 o'clock here But as Vanessa was saying, we have at least one, if not two other meetings a month right now.
All right, so your next regularly scheduled meeting would be, did you say the first Tuesday? So that's
Yes.
the 4th, April 4th.
Yes, that's
Right.
right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion among the board? All right, hearing none, let's move on to, Karen, I've gotten through, I haven't missed anything under,
No, you,
I did it?
yes.
All right,
We're on
awesome.
item 8, select
Okay.
board items.
Select board items and new business discussion and action. As a reminder, we're going to move C and D up behind B. So the letter, so first is the Putney Landing Sidewalk Alternatives Review, and then we're going to talk about a possible letter to VTrans related to a Rotary, and a letter to VTrans related to, I think, hashing on the corner of Route 5 and Christian Square. So we're moving to the Putney Landing Sidewalk Alternative Review, and I do want to limit this discussion to the plans that we have on hand. And if you, I know there's a lot of excitement about a possible Rotary. I'd like to keep that discussion to the Rotary discussion. So if we can move on to,
So,
are we wanting to make a,
can I just make a comment?
yeah,
So in your packets, you have alternative 1A, 1B, alternative 2, and alternative 3. You also have in your packet an email from Christina Haskins, who
Yep.
is the Dufresne Group engineer, with her basically summary of the alternatives. You may want to read that to the folks
do you want me to read
here.
this out? Okay.
And I also have in the packet are the current costs for each alternative dated March 13th. And I have an email from Peter Paggi with Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust and their comment.
Oh, somehow, where is that?
You don't have that, it's right
Oh,
there.
you have that.
I have that.
I had some comment.
Okay, one second. So, why don't I read this letter first?
Before you read that letter, I just want to make sure that Nate, who wasn't on the select board,
Right.
that he knows what
What's
we're
going
doing,
on.
what's going on.
Do you know what's going on?
Sounds like a sidewalk is being built
Yeah, could we
around
just
lots
give
of
Nate a
premises.
summary of where we
We
are?
can certainly try. Do you want to?
Oh, geez.
No.
That we,
We can have Pip do it. He's-
oh, yeah, there you go, Pip.
All right, Pip, you're up after all. Okay.
Sort of a procedural comment. I spoke to Peter Paggi today. He hadn't looked at the recent drawings. His email is about the plans that had the crosswalk across the island.
Can you update Nate first?
Yeah,
and
sorry,
we
I
can
just,
go
if that's
into
not,
this.
you don't feel like that's worth discussing, we'll get it addressed.
Okay.
A grant was written and received from the Vermont Department of Transportation, the VTrans grant, for a pedestrian and alternative means of travel program that they have. We received funds to hire an engineer to look at the options of getting a pedestrian path from the Putney Landing apartments down to the sidewalk network. And what you see, the drawings reflect a couple of those alternatives. The 1A, 1B is really a contingency about whether or not you can get a right-of-way on the Tuft property. So it feels like it's not, I mean, I think they should just be sort of lumped together. If you like that direction, in the future, a determination will be made about whether or not you can get a right-of-way. If you can't get a right-of-way, there's an alternative. So it's sort of, it's like a contingency plan. It feels a little confusing, just, you know, it's the same path being moved 10 feet away from the, you know, on the property or off the property. If it's off the property, the slope is steeper and it requires a retaining wall and costs a bit more.
Okay.
But so at this point in the process, the engineer has prepared these preliminary drawings, and it's up to the select board to make a selection about the preferred alternative. And then the engineer will proceed to further develop that preferred alternative. And at the end of that, a report will be prepared, and it would set the stage for the next round of grant chasing. So that we would have a report, we would have very detailed estimates, it would have the reliability of a thoughtful engineering firm standing behind it, so it has a high degree of reliability. And that becomes the basis for the next step. And it's following the procedure that VTrans would like. So you're setting yourself up to be in a good position to get grant funding for the next phase, which would be the construction phase.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Pip, also alternate 3, we'd have to have a easement. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, probably right.
It's in the email from Christina.
Okay.
So we'll go through that, Eric.
All right.
You mean between the bank and,
To cross their
Yeah,
property,
yeah.
yeah.
so that, yeah.
So that puts a limit on.
Okay. So, I will read the letter from Christina, and then we can move to discussion. So it says, "Hi Karen, I was without power internet." I guess we don't really
Yeah,
need
you
to
don't
know
need to
about
read
that
that
part.
first.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
The costs I sent previously were for the revised crossing location. However, this morning I double checked all the quantities and updated the costs. The new numbers are attached. Our slides from the presentation include an evaluation matrix, which summarizes most of the potential impacts of the alternatives. Here is a quick high-level summary. Alternative A1 requires one easement, requires crossing the rods, Curtis driveways, and VTrans is okay with this alternative. Alternative 1B, no easements, requires crossing the rods, Curtis driveways, and VTrans is okay with this alternative. Alternative 2, no easements, requires crossing the rods, Curtis driveways, VTrans does not support this alternative. Alternative 3 requires 2 easements, assuming there is no formal easement already for the existing path. Does not require crossing the rods, Curtis driveways, and VTrans is okay with this alternative. It does require utility pole relocation and requires private fence relocation. Fence is in the right of way though. And that is all of the relevant information, right? That we've gotten so far. So we have discussed this several times. You haven't been part of those discussions. I think we would like to make a decision today, right? If we can.
If we're gonna go after a grant, you
kind of need to do this, right? Okay.
So what I'd recommend is process of elimination.
I seem to recall Christina saying that we could pick more than one. Is that your understanding, Pip?
Yes. Yes. But I don't know if that's, I mean, so alternative to VTrans does not support this alternative.
I think we can eliminate that one, right?
So eliminate that one right off the bat.
Yep.
Okay, because we can't fight the state, okay?
And get them to pay for it at the same
We
time.
can, we probably do this right.
We know we can get grants for any of these 3 alternatives that are left. It just depends on which one. Pip, would you like to speak on behalf of?
Yeah, I've organized them in my mind.
Okay.
To boil it down, 2 choices. The Depot Road choice, which you'll see is alternative 3.
Yes.
Which is to go out the existing old right-of-way onto Depot Road, put you kind of ways down Depot Road, and then you can head north. If we got a right-of-way to cross over by the bank or something, you could then enter the sidewalk network there.
Yep.
It has the sort of advantage of it provides a sidewalk on Depot Road, which is sort of a plus, though we did interestingly hear from a resident on Depot Road who said, you don't really need a sidewalk and their kids can play in the middle of the road. It was a curious, response, but interesting. so independent of my opinion, the other sort of ways, I lump 1 and 2, alternative 1A and 1B together. They're leaving Putney Landing and heading down as best as you can across the slope with or without a little retaining wall, depending upon how far up the slope you are. If you are up a little bit further, you go on the Tuft property and you don't need a retaining wall. Otherwise, you come down, a few feet and you're off their property in the right of way and you might need a retaining wall. But the starting point and the end point is the same, and it's a little tweak about whether, what's the final direction. So in my mind, there's just 2 choices. Depot Road.
$60,000 tweet.
Yeah, but.
No, I understand, I'm just teasing.
It's from a grant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and, there would be a portion paid for by the town, but there's no guarantee about a right-of-way, and I think it's prudent to have a contingency plan.
Yeah, no.
And also, in all fairness, I don't know the details of the negotiation, but in the past, for rights-of-way, it's not unusual to compensate the landowner.
Yeah.
So that discussion hasn't happened. You don't know what the value of that land is to the landowner. So it could be that it's the price of a retaining wall. Who knows?
Right.
So in my mind, those are your 2 choices.
Plus, with the right-of-way, I would assume that the listers would go out and reassess that property, so the town's assessment of that property would most likely go down, which would mean less tax revenue for the town. So it may actually end up being the same cost, one way or the other. What do people think about these?
Can I make further comment,
Yeah.
please? Because I'm interested in Pip's conversation with Peter Paggi, because I did talk to him on Monday, and he did send me an email. Their preference is the Depot Road, alternative 3, and depending on what happens at the triangle, because we are going to write a letter for the state to look at that area and do a preliminary review. We did discuss as a town, more connectivity, so alternative 3 actually makes more sense at this time. And the fact that it costs less is...
Because it adds more sidewalk to a road that doesn't have any? Is that the reasoning there?
Well, no, it gives connectivity.
Yeah, I just, if we're looking at the future, and possibly putting sidewalks on both sides of Route 5, this accomplishes part of that goal.
Correct.
Which may not be a goal that we have, but if we were to eventually bring a sidewalk down to, say, the Putney Inn or the boat landing, then this would be a good start.
Right.
So I can see both of those options as being viable.
I don't have any documentation other than the fact that I'm telling you, I talked to Peter Paggi today. Peter was on an extended leave for a new child and hadn't kept current with all of the emails. When I explained to him that there were diagrams that came out from Chrissy, the engineer, that really were showing sort of every plan there, crossing the triangle as well as going north and crossing further up. She just hadn't erased the triangle part. So Peter's response was different. Peter said, I wasn't aware of that. The main concern that they had was the dangers of crossing the triangle.
Right.
We were sort of past that already. And he liked the idea of promoting the sidewalk on Depot because it served a lot of people. But his primary objection was the unsafe crossing of the triangle.
Right.
And when he was told, he didn't see a diagram, but when I told him that we are not considering that anymore, we're going to go further north and cross when it's one lane, he was much more accepting of that notion. So I think if you asked him again, he would write a different email.
Okay, because this was Monday when I...
Right, and this was just this afternoon.
Okay, good. I'm glad you have current information.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to,
No, that's okay. More information is more information.
Right.
So if I can get to the board, where do people What's your sense here? Nate, do you think do you need more information?
I mean, I feel like I'm jumping into
I'm not
something.
putting you, I'm trying not to put you on the spot,
No,
but
no,
if you
you're
want
totally
to, yeah.
May I make one last that might facilitate this thinking process? The grant was written with the expectation that we're going to try to find the most direct route, most likely for pedestrians to use. Sort of, the quad concept, like the pedestrians will make a path, and then you build the sidewalk over it. There was a little hint of a path there, but it wasn't that heavily used. But following that concept, it would be trying to find the most direct link to the sidewalk. And, so you can, I have an opinion, but you could try to evaluate whether, whether you think one or the other is the most direct way that people from Putney Landing would like to use to get to the sidewalk system. And also another destination is the bus stop by the co-op, for what it's worth.
Right. Okay, so I'd like to have the select board have a bit of a time to discuss this amongst ourselves before I open it back up to the public.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% clear. I think there's advantages and disadvantages both ways. But I did make a point of walking down the Old Depot to Putney Landing and talking to a number of people along the way, including maybe I got 2 or 3 different households at Putney Landing. Mm-hmm. Just asking, well, we're having this conversation, which way do you prefer, which way would you prefer to walk? And consistently I got Old Depot Road.
Okay.
So just for what that's worth, I can't say that that's like a accurate survey, but it's certainly, the people I talked to were clearly in favor of that route.
And is that because that's the way they're walking now anyway, or?
There were different things. One, it's the way I'm walking now. 2, it felt safe. Somebody said it felt safer, and that it was easier. It was flatter,
Well,
and for that
true,
person,
yeah.
it was better to have a flat surface.
Okay, that's good information. Nate, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I haven't talked to anyone from Putney Landing, didn't know that this was the discussion we were having. But a flat surface would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm thinking about how I walk around town, and it can be a struggle to walk up even Kimball Hill,
Yeah,
depending on
yeah.
who you are.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about that population there, if they are older or whatever, but a flatter area would definitely make sense in that regard. Also thinking about walking down to the river, like, I know that's, the sidewalk is not going that far, but if, say, in the future that was a discussion, it would make more sense to not be on Old Depot Road where it is flatter, but, alongside the highway.
Right. And yeah, and I guess that's, my only reason for possibly preferring this one would be for future sidewalks on Route 5. But I don't walk this area at all. I usually bike to wherever I'm going anyway. But so I'm usually, coming down the sidewalk on the sidewalk that already exists. So I don't have a good sense of what, what the needs are for that part. So I'm not married to either one. Eric, what do you think?
I don't think there's either one, I think both are gonna be pretty flat. I can't see much of a incline on that tip.
They're ADA compliant.
Right, so
think
there's not gonna be a lot of grade change. So
Yeah,
either
this
way,
part
it's
is
pretty
too,
flat.
that part is flat
Yeah,
right
coming
there,
out.
yeah. It is crossing a bunch of driveways though, which
Yep.
makes
It
it
is.
probably less.
Which one are you looking
Let's
at,
see.
Eric?
Was it alternate 1B
Okay.
with the retaining wall, cause unknown if we could get an easement.
Yeah, I guess that would be my preference, is to go with a retaining wall rather than trying to obtain an easement. I think in terms of cost, I think eventually it would cost about the same. because I think, to be fair, we would want to compensate, you know, the landowner. And,
As far as getting down to the river, I don't know if we can even go that way, because I'm sure VTrans is
I'm sure
Yeah,
VTrans has
that's
something.
saying no because of the drainage
It's
there.
just-
Right.
So, I mean,
It's actually much steeper there than
Yeah.
it looks, yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking too about like the crosswalk. I mean, there's been lots of conversation about how we need multiple crosswalks in town and we're limited in what we can do. And so I'm thinking too, like, okay, separate from Putney Landing folks getting to the sidewalk, but what's the value of having a crosswalk at one point or at the other point? Is it more likely to be used if it's up across from the library, allowing access to?
I think that would be a lot more beneficial.
Yeah, I'm just
Yep.
trying to
Right.
figure that out,
Yeah.
you know, like it seems like that might be a more popularly used in general.
The crosswalk.
The crosswalk, if it were up at the library,
Right.
Yeah.
then you can have people living on Old Depot Road and people living on that side of Main Street be able to get across over to the library.
And alternatively, people crossing over to use the banks.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, right, yeah, that
Which-
is actually the way I go, yeah.
And this is a similar, it's kind of cut off here, but this is essentially, that's where the library is, right there.
Right, across from
Yeah.
where that
Yeah.
crosswalk would
Yeah.
come in.
Yeah. All right. So, do we want to, does somebody want to make a motion for any particular one?
I would do 2.
You want to do 2?
I would do 2.
All right.
Just, you're not committed. I mean, the consultant will write the report and then, am I wrong, Pip?
I don't know that you're wrong.
You don't know that we're wrong?
Well, all right.
So just for members of the public, I just want to get a motion on the table before I open it back up to public comments. So we're not making a vote, we're just making a motion. Does somebody want to make a motion to accept 2 alternatives here?
I just wonder if we can't do 2, can we make a motion to do 2 alternatives kind of ranked?
Okay.
So that if we can't do 2, we're clear which one we want and we can proceed with that. We don't have to come back and have this conversation again.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right?
Good
Does that
point.
make sense?
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
then I would make a motion, I'll make a motion that we ask the consultants to draw up the next designs for alternative,
3 is the preferred, right?
3 as the preferred, I'm gonna say.
That's the Old Depot Road. right?
Yes, Old Depot Road, and which one is the retaining wall? The
1B.
1B. I'm just gonna put that on the table,
1B as,
as, if we can do 2, yeah.
also, if 2 are allowed, that's a kind of an awkward motion. All right, so do I have a second?
A second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to approve approve alternate 3, which is the Old Depot as our preferred route, and alternate 1B, also if 2 are allowed. So I would like to open up the public comment. I have Mr. Fairman, I have Mary Quinn or Robin, and I have Doug Grant up there, and then I have some comments in the room. So I know Mr. Fairman had his hand up first. I'm going to go to Mr. Fairman, then I'm going to go to Doug, and then I'm going to go to Robin, and then I'm going to open it up to Bryce, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Jessica.
I'm okay, Jessica. Okay, so it's Mr. Fairman's first.
Madam Chair, just to clarify for myself and the members of the public watching or sitting there, My understanding is the motion is, your first choice is the old Depot Road route, which means there would be an easement between the bank and the credit union, and the crosswalk would be essentially in front of the library. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now for 1B, where is the crosswalk?
At the same place.
No, it's-
No, it's further down towards
Further
the
down?
co-op.
Just before River Valley.
802.
Yeah.
Yeah, 802, yeah. In between rods and
It's right after Rod's.
Oh, you're right, yeah, it's a little bit, yeah, it's right after Rod's,
It's before their driveway.
right before the 802 drive.
right before the 802 driveway.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay, that clarifies it, thank you. So we definitely have gotten away from the triangle for
Yes.
sure.
yes,
Yes.
yep.
I just wanted to clarify that. I wondered if the crosswalk might coincide, and of course, the consultant might say, well, why don't you put the crosswalks in the same place? Because it may make sense from the consultant's perspective, I don't know, but I happen to bank at 802, so I know the area we're talking about here. Concerning a sidewalk along Old Depot Road continuing down to Putney and perhaps down to the river and so on, for those who are not familiar with the area, of course, Old Depot Road used to continue. It didn't used to dead end. And where the dead end is now, where there's a snowplow turnaround, the old right-of-way is still there. It continues down the hill. Now, I don't know whether the town has thrown up that road yet or not, but if they haven't, a sidewalk could possibly be run down through there. Now, I've not assessed the gradient. They have a fence that basically says, don't go in here from this side. And I've not tried going in from the other sides, but it could be a possibility. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't write down the order that I said, so I think it was Robin and then Doug. Was that right?
Yes.
Robin or Mary? You're up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I believe it was Doug, but I'm here. First, quick digression. Just thank you, everybody, for the kind words earlier. On this topic, I think a lot of what I had to say has been said in one form or another. Just one point of clarification. What I remember from the study is that there is a certain amount of grade on option 1B. It would be ADA compliant, meaning it would not be very steep. I do want to remind people that you're not just talking about pedestrians, you're potentially talking about people in wheelchairs. So grade is not an insignificant matter. The other issues I think have been raised, but just to recapitulate, using option 3 basically gets around the whole issue of the intersection at the top of Putney Landings Road and Route 5. So there would not be a problem with having to redo this sidewalk in the event something happened down the road. A rotary was put in or any kind of modification at that area. And I think those were my two main points. I was going to point out that a resident from Putney Landings was in the room, but he's already spoken, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Doug, go ahead.
Okay, hi. This is a good discussion. I was at the last meeting and I basically don't have an opinion about any of the options, but I do have a preference about getting rid of that island. I submitted a drawing, and the reason for that is Howard Fairman made some very strong points about crossing at that point. Now, I guess the crosswalk would be further up toward AO2, but I think the point that Howard made was that, and I believe this is true of me and other people I've talked to, human nature is to cross right across from the property line of Curtis's and Rod's, roughly, across the island, across that one-way section, and then across the two-way section. And Howard made some points about the code as to whether you could put a crosswalk there or not. But I think that would go away if you eliminated that island
Okay,
and
So-
the drawing that I made, do a turn and then you would have two-way traffic, you could put in the crosswalk. Human nature is they're not gonna walk up to the crosswalk, they're gonna cross at the intersection, I believe. So I
okay.
just wanna make the point.
All right, thanks, Doug. I did mention before that we're going to delve more into that actual issue in the next agenda item. So I want to limit this discussion to the plans that are before us right now, but we will have a chance to talk about that. Bryce?
I just wanted to make a comment. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I do have friends who live at the Wyndham Windsor Housing on Depot Road, and just in consideration, one of the school bus stops is in front of M&T Bank on Route 5. So to consider that they walk across or through their parking lot every single solitary day to take the bus is something that, another thing is the amount of traffic. I don't know if anybody sat in town and just actually watched how many cars go in and out of rods, that maybe that's not the best option to have little kids on a sidewalk running through with the amount of tow trucks that go through is another, pretty big thing, if we're looking at safety. The other one was lighting. I didn't know if Depot Road, I can't remember, has lighting or not, but at night, whether or not, that's something you might have to look at down the road as well.
Was lighting part of the study? I don't
believe it is, but it will come up, especially if Vinegar Lane had to put lighting in to go up through there. I'm sure that would be the next step for you guys.
Do we have any lighting on?
We must.
I think there's one,
Yeah, so
do.
Jessica's saying yes.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want that.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you want to?
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
she's next,
Yeah,
anyway.
so,
No, I'm done, no, I just wanted to
you're all set?
put
Okay,
that out there.
Jessica.
Well, thank you all so much. I'm so excited. I'm just really grateful to the select board for pursuing this, and it's taken a long time, and I'm just really grateful. So thank you for your hard work on this. And I wanted to say before I forget, the name of the family whose property might be crossed in one of these plans, I believe it's pronounced Tuff, not Tuft. I think it might have been, yeah, Tuff with two F's, not with a T at the end. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I'm speaking as a representative of families who live on Main Street. I'm a mother of 3. We live on Main Street. My children and their friends cross the highway every day to get to each other's houses. It's driven me crazy for years. We've lived here for 8 years. Their best friends live across Route 5 from us. Every day they go back and forth. So this issue is very near and dear to me. And, in the best possible world, I want both crosswalks. I want all the crosswalks. I want one in front of the post office. I want one, as many as possible. So I'm hoping that this decision between the two crosswalks is really just prioritizing which one comes first. And I think that in that vein, I think that whichever one is the lowest hanging fruit should be the one that's prioritized to come first. Like, what can happen the most easily and the soonest? It sounds like, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds like the old depot solution with the cross from the library to the bank sounds like potentially the most accessible. I don't know, but that's my 2 cents as a mom of kids who roam this village and cross the state highway every single day. Thank you so much for all the hard work on this. I really appreciate that this is happening.
Thank you for your input, that's valuable.
Vanessa.
Thank you for the bus,
Yeah,
bus stop
yeah,
piece. I think it's
yeah.
really huge. But I'm wondering, the option 3, there's a right of way that would be needed, right, between.
Possibly.
And so I just wonder how the investment in the time and energy with the engineer, the planning, how that jives with not knowing whether or not you'd be able to get that right of way.
Well, that's a good
And whether
point,
it's
yeah.
premature to kind of be putting it up there without having any sense of whether it's even a possibility and just, I mean, it's a little hard, cart before the horse, like wanting things to move along, but also going too far down a path that ends up not being an option because you can't get the right way, that's all.
I mean, I'm wondering if that could be part of this research in the report to see if there could, because I think there was a mention of there possibly might already be one easement between the two. We don't know for sure.
Right, until we do the
So,
title work. I mean, this sidewalk here took like 14 years. And I was part of the last phase in trying to get easements from all those folks.
Yeah.
It took a while.
I bet. Which is why I'm bringing it up,
Yeah,
because
but-
you're not going too far down.
I know, but,
It's gonna
I
delay
mean-
it for.
So
Well, this kind of feasibility study, I assume, was also done for those sidewalks as well, so we didn't
Yes.
have all the
Yes.
information at that point.
Right.
So it's just, we're starting the best, with the best knowledge that we have. We have picked two alternatives here, so we can get more information on both of those, one of which does not require an easement, right? We picked the one that doesn't require an easement, right? Okay, so we've covered our bases that way. And I have more public comment. Bryce?
Just two quick comments. Somebody just texted me who said there's only one light source, I guess, on Depot Road in front of the Wyndham Windsor Housing Blue Building. So that was one point. And the other point was, I know in Chester, they have the ability, which is on their state roads where they have a crosswalk, to put an actual sign in the middle of the road. So I wondered if that was an option that we should think about,
On Route
if
5?
we're, they do it actually on 103, because Route 5 doesn't go through Chester, but 103
But I mean,
does,
it's a
11 does.
it's a state road.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that maybe
Yeah.
to get people to slow down and or pay attention, instead of having a light you have to push that blinks lights and so on, even if you just have some kind of a cone like they do in Chester, that's an option.
That would be a discussion with VTrans at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
We did discuss at our last meeting, or the meeting before that rather, or maybe the meeting before that, I don't remember, we did discuss the idea of possibly taking over the road to be able to have a little bit more control over
Right.
it, but if we do that, obviously we also are taking over all of the maintenance of that piece of road, so there's trade-offs. We shouldn't maybe necessarily, yeah. So, and that would also be a long process, because we're basically wresting it back from the state, so. So.
On that same note, though,
Yeah.
I know, because I drop my kids off at Putney Central, that people also do not pay attention to the lights that flash there. And it's a big, I've actually chased people down and said, slow the blank down, because I knew who they were and where they go every morning. And almost hit a kid. So that coming up, in the springtime, many more kids are gonna be walking that road.
Yeah.
And there's never a police officer there.
Well, that's a discussion for another
That's
time.
another, I'm just looking at it.
Did you have?
They
No,
are
I just don't
on the
like
bell.
Public comment online, Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, 2 points that could help to clarify here. First one is street lights on Old Depot Road. There are 3. There's one near Attorney Proctor's office. There's one opposite the Plant's house, and there's also one by the Tufts house. And I can tell you, because I walk through there all the time, that they illuminate all the way down to the laneway that heads into Putney Landing. There might need to be, Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust might need to put a light in there, but it quite possibly could be solar powered. Now, regarding the question of the easement between the M&T Bank and 802 Credit Union, I thought I should mention, because I also walk through there all the time, this is vacant land between their 2 parking lots. There is nothing there. And it is about 20 feet wide. So I should not be surprised if whichever financial institution owns it might simply, for the goodwill, donate the easement. So I doubt that that somehow would be a problem, because there's certainly plenty of room, and it could certainly be good PR, and I don't know, maybe they can get a charitable donation deduction for it. Thank you.
Plus, it might make for good business.
Right.
More traffic to the bank. Okay, is there more discussion among the board on this? We do have a motion on the table. Is there any further comment online? Any further comment in the room? Bryce?
I was just wondering, are there physical numbers to these three or not? Because that was
Costs?
I never saw.
We didn't actually say those. There are somewhere in this packet.
I just gave it to him.
Okay.
We're going with the least expensive and the most expensive.
Right. Just to cover all of the bases.
Right.
The preferred, the preferred.
Nothing in between.
All right.
Cool.
All right, do you have any other questions?
No.
All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right.
Good discussion.
All right, so our next thing is a possible letter to VTrans related to a rotary on Route 5.
It's not a possible letter, it's
It's
actually.
an actual letter, you've actually written it, all right?
Well, the select board had asked me to write a letter to VTrans, and.
Thanks, Pip.
Thank you, Pat. And I had a conversation with Mark Pickering, he's the district project manager, and he said, yes, write a letter to us. They will do a preliminary review. They don't know how long it's gonna take, but they need the letter from the town as the first step. So when I send this letter, I signed it myself. I will also include Doug Grant's 2 concept plans, and Deborah Lazar had a plan as well.
Yeah.
Mark Pickering already has these, but I will make sure they're in with my letter.
Okay.
And we will wait and see. Scott Curley is also with the state of Vermont, and he's been part of this whole sidewalk process. And he has these designs from Doug and Deborah, because we did talk about it, and I just like sent it over to them, and so we'll see how quick they can get some sort of response to us.
Great. Okay. Is there comments online about the letter to VTrans regarding a rotary on Route 5? Mr. Fairman, you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In submitting what has been referred to as plans to VTrans, I would suggest that perhaps they be referred to as proposals or suggestions, because to the best of my knowledge, none of these people is a professional engineer in the field in question. So that's just a suggestion, and I would suggest that in including these, that you include engineer Haskins' plan, where she simply used the computer to drop a standard roundabout into the intersection to demonstrate that in fact it would be feasible. I don't recall how she identified it, but I remember seeing it on my screen when she shared her screen. And finally, I'm glad that we are initiating the procedure, because as my mother used to say, if you don't ask for it, you won't get it. So having asked for it, at least we will be in the queue for it to happen sooner than it otherwise would. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deborah?
Hi. Thank you so much, because I really think this is needed. It's very difficult to find a safe place to cross Route 5, And I also want you to think about sorry, I understand that, and that was a bird. That the amount of traffic that has to come down that road on Old Depot, it's a dead-end road with only 1 or 2 houses at the end. And so they're right now walking on the street, which, we plow and we maintain. But it seems to me that the one piece that's missing, which is the sidewalk that connects the Putney Landing to the Old Depot Road, that's the piece that needs to be connected. And with the 2 banks, it would be easy for anyone to use either of their driveways to cross the road. So using up that land or from sidewalk seems to me to be taking up land that could be purposefully used in a different way. And with the circle, if the circle is a way to see the future of Putney and fix the entrance to the co-op so it could be 2-way and really do a traffic amelioration to slow it down and create a center there. You can grow trees in the middle of the circle. So the idea of the circle, I think, is wonderful, and I really appreciate you doing that. And so creating a sidewalk that could, at someday in the future, become connected to a circle, I think is a really good way to think about it.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you. Doug?
I'd like to second everything Howard and Deborah said. I want to make it clear that is a conceptual drawing. I checked, sort of checked the measurements, and I'm thinking maybe a 53-foot big rig could go through there if it went across the middle, so no trees in the middle of the roundabout, for sure. But the truck should be able to go straight through. But a traffic engineer should look at the radiuses of all those curves, because that's just an artist's conception as an idea.
Okay, I'm sure they'll do that. Was there public comment in the room? Did you have your hand up?
I did. My questions have been answered.
Okay. Is there any other public comment in the room on this issue? The 2 people that still have hands up have already spoken. It's Deborah and Doug. Are you still wanting to say something? Okay, perfect. All right. So moving on to the letter to VTrans related to parking on the corner of Route 5 and Christian Square.
So I had a resident call me, and people tend to park right to Christian Square on Route 5. And the visibility coming out of there is very difficult. I spoke with Mark Pickering about that as well. In your packet, there is an SUV, Suburban, that was parked there one morning, and it's very difficult. The resident actually wanted a 3-way stop right there. Going,
wow.
So
that would contribute to traffic calming.
Yes. So I am going to write a letter to Mark. So the simple solution could be that there's hash marks right there on that corner, like out in front of Town Hall. You get the white hash marks for no parking, although people still park there. It will make it a little bit safer. I don't know any other resolution for that corner, other than having people travel, around and come out by the mill in the bottom of Kindle
Oh, you mean
Hill.
like closing that part off entirely?
No, I would not recommend closing it off. Absolutely
I think
not.
hash marks would do the.
I think that might solve the problem temporarily, and if people, there should be a sign there. I don't know if it's a state law that you can't park, a certain distance on a corner, like a fire hydrant.
It
right?
is, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't know what the number is, but it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a concrete bump out maybe, so that somebody couldn't even, pull in from there. They'd actually have to do a real parallel park.
Tire spikes.
So,
Nate, you're familiar with that
Yes,
corner.
I was just going to second that.
Yeah.
That's, a place that I would come out every day. and that it's extremely unsafe. And I think, you know, hash marks or some sort of bump out, you know, because it's only the span of about one car. That's really the problem.
Right.
You can't see right at all if you're coming up. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the road goes.
You can come up the hill there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vanessa?
So, two thoughts. One, the kind of cement bump out. Been through that for the same kind of, you know, issues in somewhere else where I lived, and it ended up causing other problems. And one of the problems is to cyclists. So looking forward to creating, you know, bike lanes, or at least, you know, kind of a more bike-friendly issue, those physical bump outs tend to then cause more problems. And also, so many people just don't know how to parallel park. I mean, it's ridiculous, but,
And also
you know,
the
I think it's a
plow
whole
guys
traffic
will go
thing.
crazy.
But one of the, you know, there's
Right,
kind of an in-between, between just the hash marks, is a very simple, like little bike stand, and kind of do double duty, because it is a physical structure, but it's fully see-through, so it doesn't impede vision. And it's kind of yet another invitation to encourage cycling. And it gives people a place to put bikes, which we don't have anywhere yet.
Right.
So just something to think about would be just a very simple little kind of bike rack, along with the, you know, hashtag, you know, hash marks would put up. So
I guess it depends on how much VTrans is amenable to something like that. I mean, I think they would be fine with painting hash marks. They haven't traditionally been as friendly for bikes, but I mean, I personally like that idea.
Right.
Bike racks.
So the town highway department actually paints the hash marks out front. So I would think they will be doing the ones across the road. I also think public parking signs to, you know, get people to come in here and park might help. So.
Right now,
some low-hanging fruit.
Right. So right now, the signs out here say for tavern parking only.
Over there.
Over there.
Over here, right.
Yeah,
Wherever.
not over here.
Yeah.
Wherever I am, I don't know where I am. Yeah. So and so I don't know if we can open
But
that
the
up.
tavern parking is on that side. Over here, we own half of
Aren't there
this.
signs on
it
the
says.
side? I think it says.
It
on the
does
side.
say that though, it does. Say tavern parking only. On this side, against the building, it does.
It does say that.
Well,
And it
I have
says-
a map that says otherwise, and that will be a conversation later.
It does say watch out for falling snow as well,
Right,
so.
right.
I know that.
I think it says watch out for town manager.
You should make that the town manager parking over there. It's against the work,
Okay. So
So I am gonna send
you have
that
that.
letter.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
No comments online.
No comments online. What does the select board feel about taking a break?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, okay, sure. So how much time do we
10
need?
minutes.
All right, so the, 5 minutes.
Let's do
5 minutes? 5 minutes. So, we're gonna take a little bit of a break, if I can find out what time it is. It's 7:43 now, so let's come back at 7:50. We'll split the difference, okay? All right. So, we're reconvening at 7:51. And we are on item B, which is the request to select board potential conflict of interest, which is Mr. Fairman.
Madam Chair, may I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. First, to clarify this to the public, because this is quite an unusual agenda item, I simply am bringing a matter to our Town of Putney Select Board's attention and taking the opportunity to prudently bring another matter to the public's attention for your and their discretionary action. To create a public record in a public meeting, I plan to read aloud just the first page of the 4 pages that you have received. And as per parliamentary procedure, I am not naming anyone regarding either matter. Now, Should you wish to take further action, it would be under the Town of Putney Conflict of Interest Policy, particularly Article 11. So, shortly before Putney Town Meeting 2023, you who are continuing as select persons discussed during a regular Town of Putney Select Board meeting conflicts of interest in general. During the same meeting, our town manager announced that dismissal by the Vermont Environmental Court of the appeal of the Town of Putney's granting of the zoning permit for the Isles Hallway Drive housing development is being appealed to the Vermont Supreme Court. I emphasize that I am mindful that litigants appealing are exercising their statutory rights soon before the Vermont Supreme Court as the final arbiter, and that they may be inexperienced in such matters, although nevertheless subject to all applicable policies, rules, and laws. I am, however, equally mindful that one litigant is also a Town of Putney Planning Commissioner who may be in undisclosed and unrecused real or perceived conflicts of interest regarding 4 among 6 conflicts of interest defined by the Town of Putney Conflict of Interest Policy mandated by Vermont statute. Moreover, this Town of Putney Planning Commissioner and litigant may be privy by statutory jurisdiction to official communications within Town of Putney municipal government regarding the Town of Putney's legal discovery, motions, strategy, and tactics versus litigants judicially appealing permitting of a large-scale housing development that is within the purview of the Town of Putney Town Plan and Planning Commission. I take this opportunity to notify the public that Friends of Putney, soliciting 501c3 charitable donations to pay an attorney assisting litigants with their appeal, is recently renamed and significantly repurposed Inclusion Center 501c3 Public Charity, absent any public record that the U.S. Internal Revenue Service has been duly notified of and has duly authorized this repurposing, which therefore may be an unwitting violation of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code. Pages 3 and 4 of this letter contain considerably more detail in this matter, but which is not really within the Select Board's purview. So, regarding possible real or conflicts of interest, just to conclude, the Vermont Environmental Court has named a Town of Putney Planning Commissioner as a litigant in an appeal regarding permitting of a large-scale housing development that is within the purview of the Town of Putney Town Plan and Planning Commission. The Brattleboro Reformer has named this planning commissioner as an officer of a 501c3 public charity, soliciting charitable donations to pay an attorney to assist with this ongoing appeal. I assume we agree that no one within our Town of Putney municipal government shall have any conflicts of interest, real or perceived, and that any possible conflicts of interest should be publicly disclosed, whether or not they are resolved in Select Board executive session. Now, as I mentioned in my opening, this concludes my summary of a 4-page document. The rest simply gives detail about the conflicts of interest, possible conflicts of interest versus the conflicts of interest policy, and also gives considerably more detail on the question of the U.S. Internal Revenue Service involvement in the Inclusion Center as a fundraiser for attorney's fees. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, my understanding is that at this point, there is no further discussion, that I'm simply providing this for your information, and you take it from there at your discretion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I want to limit discussion at this point, and possibly schedule an executive session at a later date, and invite the parties in. Does that sound like a good plan to the Select Board?
Yeah, we don't need to do it tonight.
I want to do it tonight. Does that sound like a good plan to the Select Board?
Yeah.
Okay, public comment. Elizabeth Moore online. Elizabeth?
Yes. Unfortunately, what Howard was just discussing was a misprint by the reformer.
Okay, thank you.
And the person in question is not on the board, nor ever has been. of Friends of Putney. And therefore, and I know it was due to a misunderstanding or miscommunication with Laura Campbell, who wrote to Susan Schmall here to retract the incorrect, falsely written statement. So, I don't think there's any need for an executive session because nothing has occurred untoward.
Okay, thank you. Vanessa.
So since Mr. Fairman is talking about me, I would like to request that you don't go into executive session. You previously made the same mistake on public record in a meeting. And so I don't, it's about me. I want it to be public.
Okay.
I'm asking you not to do that.
Okay.
You've already made the mistake once. I don't trust that it won't happen again. As far as, Mr. Fairman's accusations, the fact that you made the same comment in public incorrectly, it just kind of exacerbates it. My understanding is that there was the Commons or the Reformer or whatever it was, did not print that. There was a letter to the editor. So some person wrote a letter to the editor, which is not being reported by, and it's just fully incorrect. I'm not a member of this group. They don't have members. I'm not on their board. I have nothing to do with them. So enough already.
Okay.
So,
Wait, hold on. Go ahead, sorry.
And I'm not a plaintiff in that case. I was at the Development Review Board session. I am a resident of Putney, impacted by it, so I am a person of interest, period. There is one person named, it's Laura. I, along with anyone else who simply announced themselves as a person of interest, I'm a person of interest in that case. I'm not a defendant or a plaintiff or anything else. So it's just fucking bullshit, and I'm really getting sick of people taking this gossip and, dragging us out. And it's just, I'm really sick of it. And Mr. Fairman, I really don't appreciate you taking lies, taking misinformation, and continuing to propel it in this way. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy, and it's just ridiculous.
Okay, so thank you for your commentary. We do have there is more information in this document. I do want to give you a full hearing, and because you requested it in public, that's part of our conflict of interest policy, and I will honor that. I don't want to do it tonight because it's 8 o'clock and we're all exhausted. So I would like to request to table that discussion until the next meeting where we can all be refreshed and have that conversation at that point where we can all do our research and do our due diligence and come to the table as calmly as possible and have that conversation then, because I don't have any of this information here. So I don't think it's a fair conversation for any of us to have right now. Does that sound fair to the board? The board seems amenable to that, was before. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
I don't think we need to get into it tonight. If you're good with that, Vanessa,
Not really. As it is, Mr. Fairman's put this out there, people are gossiping about it, Sue and Josh Laughlin are talking about it, I'm getting emails and texts, I don't want it dragged out.
I'm here, I've put in these hours. I don't want to put in how many more days or a month or, with this continued, rounds of just, no.
You can do a special meeting.
Sooner than later.
All right, what's this feeling on the board about a special meeting?
I think that would be our best option.
Okay, do you want to do it, what's your you want us to do it in the next couple of days?
Yeah.
We can warn it 24 hours in advance?
Yeah,
So we couldn't
24
do
for,
it, we couldn't do it tomorrow, do it on Friday,
we can do it Friday.
yeah?
Mhm.
So-
Is Friday okay, or is that too?
I'm not interested in
Have you read,
being,
have you?
no, how would I?
Well,
Nobody's
Right,
ever,
so-
nobody said anything
right,
to me.
so-
Everybody else is talking about me,
Okay,
but
so-
not one person has said
So
anything
this,
to me.
okay, so this was an agenda item that was requested from a member of the public. This was not at the behest of the select board. So the select board doesn't have a lot of information right now. I
Right.
understand that you're very upset. I understand the that might possibly put the position that might possibly put you into. We are willing to reconvene as soon as possible to have a public hearing to hash this out. We can't do it right now. It's not fair to the select board. It isn't fair to you. It isn't fair to the public. So, so if you're amenable to meeting with us on Friday, is everybody available on Friday?
Friday when?
What time?
I don't know what time.
5:36?
No, I can't.
What time?
I can only do it I can't do it after 5 o'clock. And 5 o'clock or later. I would have to do it during the business hours.
What about Saturday?
I'm going to the select board meeting in Randolph, the select board training in Randolph. I'll be gone. No, I can't do it on Saturday. I can't do it on Sunday. I can't. I'm just not available.
What's the earliest everybody can do it on Friday?
As early as you guys want on Friday.
Hey, are you free on Friday?
I'm free on Friday.
You work till?
I work until 5, but I can take the time off. So what time would be good for you?
I can.
Would 3 work?
Yeah.
3? 3?
Or 4 if you want to push, if you gotta get out early,
3 or 4 it's not gonna make a difference.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock?
Can you come at 3 o'clock on Friday?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
We're doing this for you, so
Yeah, hopefully you
we'd
can make
appreciate
it.
you to be here. And like I said, we haven't looked through this, this is all new to us. So if you'd work with us, we'll work with you, to get through this. And we'll all take time out of our schedules to be here.
I mean, it's, by chance that I'm here because, so you clearly were gonna do it without me anyway.
No.
So,
You just wanted it earlier, sooner than later, This is
We
the soonest
can
we can
either do it at 3 p.m. on Friday,
I'll
or we can wait
come
until
up
the
with
next
it.
regular. Okay,
We'll be
thank
here.
you. All right. Mr. Fairman, I'd rather table this conversation until 3 p.m. on Friday, but do you have something relative to,
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. I have some additional public information that I thought would not need to be brought out this evening, but it does. I am reading from a filing issued over the signature of a judge of the Vermont Environmental Court. I quote, "Appellant," that being Ms. Laura Campbell, "attended our initial conference and motion hearing along with interested parties, Daniel Hardigan, Kira Sawyer Hardigan, Deborah Lazar, Vanessa Vadum, and Elizabeth Warner. Appellant and the interested parties appeared as self-represented litigants," unquote. I think I should probably mention that having once called out some members of the Town of Putney Committee for defamation, I'm very careful not to defame anyone, and I will provide tomorrow the actual printout of this filing over the signature of the Vermont Environmental Court. Judge, and I should mention therefore that there's a footnote that says, following her request to withdraw filed July 13th, 2022, Kira Sawyer-Hartigan is no longer a party in this matter. But the other people, according to the Vermont Environmental Court, appeared as self-represented litigants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Robin, you have your hand up. Again, I'd like to table this issue. Is it relevant?
I'll leave that for you to decide, Madam Chair. Two thoughts. First of all, I think there's, to a layperson's ear, there's a distinct difference between being an interested party who has appealed the decision and an officer of a 503B or other organization which has any kind of financial stake, even if it's only in requesting charitable contributions to an organization. If Ms. Vadim has appeared in any capacity before a court as a private citizen, she's entitled as a private citizen to her opinion, totally separate from her position on the Planning Commission. We, as a body, supported the application. That does not mean that every member of that body supported the application. And she is, as a citizen, I would think, as entitled as any other citizen to participate in further action if she's deemed so fit. The other thing is to offer a possible compromise, which is that if the issue is time, attention, etc., Ms. Vadim has requested that this be heard tonight. I recognize that there is other business before the board that you would like to get to, and I would suggest that as opposed to postponing this part of the hearing, as inconvenient, as uncomfortable as it is, perhaps you should proceed with this and postpone your other business until a further meeting when she does not need to be party to the arrangements regarding time and scheduling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like, again, to reiterate that the select board has not had time to look at this, and I don't think it's fair to anyone involved to make, to try to conduct some kind of hearing at this point. And so that's why we're doing it at 3 p.m. on Friday. Is there any other discussion among the board? All right, so we're going to convene a special meeting at 3 p.m. on Friday.
Here at the town hall.
Here at town hall, yeah. All right.
What do you? So we're gonna have to record the meeting, obviously, because it's select board meeting. Do we want BCTV here, or do we want
I don't think we need them here.
to do Zoom?
I prefer not to do Zoom on that one, unless we need to have, unless we have people that need access. I prefer not to, unless everybody else has a different.
Are you doing?
It would be a public hearing, but unless we want to.
Well, if it's a public hearing, you have to record it. You gotta.
Yeah, I guess we do have to do that. So I guess Zoom would be the
So
way to
what
record
is?
it.
I mean, we can do it through Zoom.
Okay.
And record the meeting.
Okay.
Or we can ask BCTV.
Let's just have it as Zoom then.
Okay.
All right. Can we move on?
I think so.
All right. So the next piece on our agenda is VLCT Select Board training recommended. Is that just a?
So I have 2 select board already signed up for the select board, I forget what it's called, essentials. So there is a remote. So that is on March 30th. You have to sign up for it, so if you're interested, let me know.
Yes, for the 30th for sure.
I highly recommend this training for all select boards.
Yep.
So Eric, there is an in-person in Randolph on Saturday.
That's this Saturday.
This Saturday.
Okay.
For sure. Good.
So, if
I have
you're-
to go north anyway, so
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah.
So if you're interested, I can sign you up. I'll send you the information first. I'm trying to get an in-person select board training down here. And if we can do that, it'd be great too, but that won't happen until at least April. And then I gotta get Charlie on board too.
Okay, well, yeah, so I'm signed up for the remote session. I think
You
it's
are.
next Thursday
What's
or
the time for the remote?
11 a.m.
I think it was, was
I
it
don't know what
10?
day it
4
was.
hours, 3 to 4 hours.
Oh, it's just
Give us
an
the
hour,
result.
isn't it?
I don't know, I think I sent everybody the link,
I
so.
don't remember.
I do the remote.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember how long it is, and I don't remember the day, I just remember it was 11-ish.
Eric, I will send you and Nate the link.
Okay.
Thank you.
Honestly, they should just have more of them, but, Nate. You will get an email from VLCT, all right? All right, moving on.
All right, so the next piece is the resilient and efficient codes implementation support.
So Bob Stevens, he's with Stevens and Associates, sent me this email. All they're looking for is a verbal support. They're going after this grant, I guess. And what it is for is Vermont Building Energy Code and Ordinance Compliance Project. This is a topic of discussion, especially for zoning, as these certificates are supposed to be filled out, and then recorded with the town clerk's office.
Yeah.
But there's no like consistent process for this, which has been a problem. So I don't know if it's gonna change just with your support, but this is kind of what they're looking for.
Okay, so is this a letter that we're supposed to sign, or?
No, it's
Just a voice
Just a
support?
voice, verbal, yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing too with these energy codes is that there's no enforcement to
Yeah.
make sure people do them. So that's what they're trying to like be proactive, to push this better, educate people and municipalities. So.
Okay, well, then can I hear a motion to support the grant opportunity for resilient and efficient codes implementation?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to support the resilient and efficient codes implementation. Any discussion on the board?
I just have to say that I'm at the end of my being able to take any information in, and if you tell me that this is a good thing to do, I will do it because
Right.
you tell me it is, but I don't really understand.
Yeah.
You know, but that might not be important, but I just need to say, like, I can't.
Yeah, and I think the reason, and I totally hear you, but the reason that this is happening now is that it's due March 25th.
Right, and it
So
sounds
it's
like I
another
don't
one of the-
really need to understand all the details of it. That's not gonna make or break
It's not
anything.
gonna, it's not gonna impact us. It may impact our zoning bylaws, so we may have to strengthen those. But this is a state mandated process that these certificates be filled out. And as the zoning administrator, I send them out with every permit. They never come back. And there's nothing in my bylaws that state that I need to chase them in. They need to go to the town clerk. So I've delegated to the town clerk that he needs to make sure they come in, because it's like,
Yeah.
but is it, with the whole energy climate change too and going green, it's important for the state to, you know, reinforce this program.
I do remember that the Energy Committee recommended to
Yes.
the town manager that we implement some kind of enforcement of this, of these codes, and her response was, how am I gonna do that? So I think that, you know, that this will aid in that goal that we had all those 2 years ago.
Right.
So to that point, you know, to that end, I think it's a good idea.
It is.
Okay.
All right.
I'm hoping that other people grasp it more than me. It's just, I'm sorry.
I know,
I'm
there's
just-
a lot here, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's like, and it's getting late.
Yep.
Just trying to be transparent.
That's totally fair.
Or maybe
So-
I abstain because my brain's not working
That's fine
anymore.
too. So is there any comments online? There's no public in the room. Any further discussion among the board? I did put a motion on the table, right? I think it did. Okay, so all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstain?
I'm abstaining.
All right,
Thank you.
fair enough. All right, moving on to select board unfinished business. Do we want to table these?
If we can, I would say we should.
I think they can wait.
I think they can wait too. So just to say that the rules of procedure, I did go through our rules of procedure that we approved last week, just to add in the hybrid piece that, so I basically melded together our procedures and a VLCT toolkit for hybrid meetings. So there's some extra language in there on how to conduct these kinds of meetings. That's basically the major changes. So if you can take a look at those for the next meeting, for our next meeting, that would be great. Conflict of interest and ethical conduct policy for town officials. I guess we'll also table that one. Okay. All right. So moving on to other business and closing comments and SB addenda, the school, the
Independent
budget
review committee.
The Wyndham Southeast School District requested that the select board basically drum up volunteers from Putney to serve on the independent budget review committee. That is, I guess it's a volunteer group that the board relies on to review the budget, and they would like to have representatives from each town to serve on that committee. She did send, did she send that to everybody? It was Kelly Young. She
I think
sent-
so,
She
too.
was supposed to send it to all the
I think
select
she
board.
did. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to get into it right now, but basically, if you can find, you know, if we as a group can find somebody or some people, some bodies willing to serve on that committee, it's not a small task that she's asking, but it is important. So drum up, you know, walk the streets, drum up some more volunteers, give them a bag.
If anybody does it, I'll give them a damn, I love this town bag.
Yeah, so, and that's just that's a shout out to the community as well. If you know, if you want to serve on this committee, let us know. And if you know of somebody who should serve on this committee, let us know, or let them know and then let us know. So that's that piece. Is there discussion among the board on that? Any comments online? Okay. We are not having an executive session, right? We can't
No.
stomach it. All right, so then our next meeting, our next regularly scheduled meeting is April 5th, 2023 at the Town Hall and in Zoom. And we are warning a special meeting for 3 p.m. on Friday here at the Town Hall and also on Zoom. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, thank you, everyone.